Yeah?
So,
But it's not different from nothing else.
it all depends.
Oh, all right. So a diet tracing exercise has left many Freeman's Hall residents alarmed at the blood-red waters of the Quashie River in Trelawney. Here to rinse the rumors, Jeffrey Marshall of the Water Resource Authority, he's a chief hydrologist.
That's right.
And a hydrologist, what you do? You just study water, what you do?
A hydrologist studies natural water resources, surface water, groundwater, and the interactions thereof.
Morning, my friend.
Morning, sir.
Welcome to Smile Jamaica.
Thank you.
So you frightened the people in Trelawney.
Yes. And
Why did you do that, sir?
I must apologize for not having sent advance notice that we were going to do this exercise. What we were doing was a diet trace test to examine the flow of the Quashie River and where it sinks and re-emerges. We were looking at the Rio Bueno Basin, and the part of the study was to examine, like I said, how the river goes. A diet trace test is something that has been done historically across the world, where you take a fluorescent dye, a dye that shows up in water, you pour it into the water where the river sinks, and then you can examine where you believe the water will rise up again by looking at the color or by putting in receptors and analyzing the receptors, so you can examine the flow of the river in that regard.
So when you say where the river sinks, the water don't come up back to same...
It doesn't come back up at the same place. For Quashie River, for example, it sinks in the Quashie caves, and it flows and just disappears. Historically, it's been shown to come up at the Rio Bueno, but that historical trace was done in the dry season. In this rainy time, we wanted to see whether or not the flow would go to alternate places, as well as to see how quickly the time travel was. So that's why we're doing that research.
Okay, can I see that picture again? How much dye you put in there? Because look at that picture right there. That's...
It looks like a lot, but the dye is fluorescent. We poured a liter of the dye, concentrated, but it was diluted in the water, and it's
only
fluorescent.
A liter?
Only a liter.
Because all of that?
Yes.
So what are people saying? World coming to an end? And...
Well, because we didn't alert the people that this was happening, and again, that was our failing, and that wouldn't be repeated. If we do something like this, we'll be sure to send out advance notice. But it would be surprising to see that happening, and I can understand the surprise that it was. But the dye itself was non-toxic and diluted, and it actually flushed out within a couple of days. You wouldn't see the dye there at this point in
so
time.
It wouldn't harm anyone?
No, it wouldn't harm anyone.
For whatever reason?
No, it would not.
And it's gone?
It's gone right now. It's gone into the aquifer, and we expect to see it rising out again. So that's what the study also shows. So explain the study now. So you found out, obviously you didn't know where it sank from before. We knew where it sank.
So you just wanted to know where it come back up.
That's correct.
You found that out.
Well, we're going to find that out because the injection was done last week on Wednesday. Part of the study is to look at the travel time to see how fast the water will flow from point A to point B. So we have receptors that will be set up on the places where we expect or we hope to find the water coming up. And by changing the receptors on a regular basis, weekly, so we'll be going out next week to the places where we put the receptors and putting new receptors there, taking the old ones. And over time, we will analyze them to see whether or not the receptors picked up the dye. So based on the time that we went out there and the time that we pick it up, we can see whether or not the dye reached that point, and we can estimate the travel time from point of injection to point of reception.
And that is for what reason? After you find out what you do with
that? Once we found that out, we can know that the flow from this river definitely impacts on that river. So for example, if persons want to take water from Rio Bueno for whatever purpose, then we would know that in allocating the water from the Rio Bueno, we'd have to be cognizant that water from Quashie River and other sources come into that river there. So if someone else wants to take water from Quashie River, we would have to account for that water that they want to take from Quashie and say, if you take water from here, it's going to impact on the water that the person is already taking from down there.
Okay. I asked before we came on, because some people seem to think that river water is better water than, I guess, I don't know where else the water come from. River water is a special water, and the same water, not just water.
Well, water is water. Most of the water that Jamaica uses most of the available water to Jamaica is groundwater. And even in Kingston, a lot of the water that we get from Mona Reservoir and Hermitage is river water that just accumulates there and is sent by the NWC. The benefits, so to speak, will depend on the mineral content, if there is, whether or not you have to treat it extra. Because surface water may be more susceptible to turbidity and impact.
But all that water is treated, though?
It's all treated, yes.
Right.
But if you have to treat the water less from the original source, and that might be something that impacts on it.
Okay.
So,
how often do you do this exercise? Do you dye tracing?
we don't do it very often. We actually haven't done it in many years. We started it last year, and this is a continuation of that. And it's just done on a specific basis from basin to basin. We studied one basin last year, and we're studying this basin this year.
Only color? Red is the only color that you...
The color depends on the dye that you use.
I know, but...
the dyes that are used in the industry worldwide, they have fluorescein dye, which is a green dye, the rhodamine, which is the red one that you saw there. There are other ones like uranine and tinopal that have other colors. So the color that is used depends on the dye that you're using to inject.
Okay. So the people have nothing to worry about?
People have nothing to worry about.
Not going to hurt anybody?
No, it's not going to hurt anybody.
And it should be clean and clear?
It's cleared out and washed out already.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you. Chief Hydrologist with the Water Resources Authority, Mr. Jeffrey Marshall. All right, more topical issues after the break when we touch on the Usain Bolt statue. Stay with us, please.